io considero il Torre la montagna più grande della mia vita, però mi ha dato tanti di quei dolori che se potessi avere una bacchetta magica la farei sparire dalla faccia della terra.
Climbers, they pursue this thing that is noble and it has these rules to it and are attached to these rules even though nobody's forcing us to be. And there's a nobility in it. There are what we would consider fundamental ethics that are negotiable. And one of them is that the people want an easy way to the top of that mountain.
Cerro Torre has this controversy. It runs so deep that it's hard to climb on that mountain and not really be confronted with it at some level.
Purtroppo, la sera del 2, mentre stavamo approntandoci ad un bivacco, una valanga caduta dalla cima portò via Tony. Con questa sua scomparsa non è scomparso solo un formidabile e magnifico arrampicatore, ma è scomparso anche uno dei miei più cari compagni, che mi era stato amico e compagno in queste lunghe ore di lotta.
So these guys set off, disappear up the mountain, and then essentially Maestri is found pretty much incoherent on the glacier below, claiming to have climbed the mountain and Tony Yeager had died on the descent. In subsequent years, there's been sort of a barrage of investigation, and subsequent ascents have been unable to find any evidence of him climbing above the Col Conquest or even to the Col Conquest, to a point where I think other than some very staunch Italian supporters, most people disagree that he climbed that peak. So in 1970, he comes back, and this is when the famous compressor route appeared up the southeast ridge, when he hauled a 400-pound gas-powered compressor to power a pneumatic drill and proceeded to put in about 400 bolts.
The first 10 pitches of the route is clean. From there, he starts using the compressor, and he continues up to the ice towers and does some ice and mix climbing. He starts another bolt ladder to the base of the head wall, and then puts a plumb line straight up the head wall. They go completely into blank rock. In 1968, I believe, the British attempt went up what is now known as the Salvatierra variation, which is the natural weakness of the mountain. So Cerro Torre is on a very steep granite feature with many cracks, many, many, many cracks. And Maestri avoided all of these cracks and natural systems and placed so many bolts.
Ma perché c'erano stati dei dubbi sulla nostra prima ascensione e siccome noi non siamo abituati a lasciare le cose a metà e nel dubbio, siamo ritornati e, come era logico, siamo arrivati in cima.
Going up the southeast ridge, was that really the best way to prove that you climbed the north face? Why not go up the north face? This was an ascent of any means necessary.
Right.
Heavy machinery, fixed ropes. This goes against all that alpine climbing stands for. This was conquest. It was conquering alpinism. We're not entitled, in my mind, to climb any mountain. By that definition, why don't we have a bolt ladder up every single mountain in the world? We're not entitled to anything. It really comes down to the attitude in which Maestri ascended this line. It comes down to the simple fact of attitude and respect for the mountains. To me, fair means is, you're climbing in alpine style. You start from the ground, and you have your pack, your rack, and the rope and the shirt on your back. You leave the ground and you summit. Or you don't summit, that's the thing. You come down when the mountain has overcome you. It's rising to the mountain. It's not taking the mountain to your level. You are fully kind of sacrificing yourself to this mountain and to this experience. It comes down to you're willing to have this magnificent failure. We reached the snow, and we kind of knew we had it in the bag. Summited the mushroom, came down, and that's when it hit us. that we kind of had just climbed the Southeast Ridge without the use of his bolts.
Okay.
And now what do we do? When is someone going to chop these bolts? Do we want to like actually go through, take the heat, and see what happens? What are we taking away? Are we going to be taking away people's experience on climbing in Patagonia? Are we going to be taking away, Cerro Torre for other people? Yes, we are. By erasing this compressor route, you're taking away others' opportunity to climb it. This is what everyone in the last 40 years of alpine climbing has said should be done. And also it's trash up there. It's ugly. When you see the bolts, you see bolts. With the bolts gone, you see features. So in the end, we cleaned 120 bolts off of Cerro Torre. We get back down to the base camp and we're confronted with this really horrendous news that our friend Carlisle is up in the mountains. She's stranded up there. Her partner's left her. She has had a head injury and, she's either dead or dying. As great of the experience that we had up there, it felt like it wasn't at all important anymore because of her death. It wasn't important at all. Didn't matter what we did. So Jason and I, we walked out of the Torre Valley. We were very content with the climbing that we had done, and we were very happy, but at the same time we were very, very, very sad. You really have to come back to what's really important. Chopping some bolts or the death of an amazing climber. Just thinking about all sorts of different things, like why we go alpine climbing. Is it worth it? All the risks we take.
Much of the outcry are from people that want an easier way to get to the top of a mountain, and that is the thing that makes me believe that what you did was right. To expose that, I think, is sort of an important thing. Sunlight is the great disinfectant, and without the climbing down there, who knows what would be going on there. In a lot of these places around the world, climbing becomes this sort of bulwark against development. Look at Everest, and what's become is a joke within climbing. I mean, Everest is not even seen as something we even give a rat's ass about anymore, and that's because bureaucracy took over, pursuit of money took over, and now it's a joke. And if climbers had been in charge of what was going to happen to Everest, we'd still have a pristine mountain. In those places, if real climbers, if people who were dedicated to keeping the same sensibility that you guys are keeping down in the Torres, if they had been in charge in the last 30 years on Everest, it would still be a place that we would revere.